Oh, okay. I am now opening the meeting at 7:27.
And do you
Okay,
not
now
have
that
to
we have a
read
quorum.
Governor, did you not have to read Governor Baker's rule?
I haven't. But according to Governor Baker's rule, and can't tell if it's actual legislation, we're allowed to hold our meetings by virtual meetings. I'll get the exact wording that I'll put on the minutes next time. Okay, so now that we're starting it, we'll now have our roll call. It's Michael, I.
Carol McGarry, present.
Kurt Stiegel, present.
Kordiak, present.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, the agenda. I have to add one item under site issues. I wanted to see what we can discuss, the issue of the fees for an ANRAD, which is a filing for delineation of the wetlands. It's come up for a particular site, that might come up for a particular site, and I'll explain it when we get there. But I'm going to add that under the site issues here. Fees for an ANRAD. Are there anybody else have any? That just came up yesterday. Or actually 2 days ago, but in the afternoon. Oh, late in the evening, actually. Does anybody else have anything for the 48-hour rule? Okay, I move that we approve the agenda with this change. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, discussion. Okay, Michael, I. Kurt,
Aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on with the agenda here, since we've got, I guess the next thing we have is actually, oh, I have the wrong agenda here. Okay. We have 15 minutes before we have an RDA. And I guess we had, I'll just give a little quick summary on the trail bridges. We had a discussion with the circuit rider with Kelly, representing the Sherborn Forest and Trail. And we went over what kind of permitting might be applicable. The material we had before for Western and Essex was deemed that was no longer, that's not considered valid by DEP standards. They've gotten it through. There was no comments made because they can't look at every NOI. So we came up with the idea of coming up with a multi-year plan, identifying sites, making some sort of assessments of the impacts to put in an NOI. And so we came through a way that we think we could do a multi-year plan for where you want to put in trail bridges that we could amend as things come up. And Kelly looked at that was a workable solution there. So it's in their court now to help us by putting together an NOI on behalf of the town for these things. So we have a way forward. So for now, we're just awaiting the development of the NOI on that. In our 14 minutes, there's the open space committee survey. I think we can move that to next meeting. I put in some comments that I started making. We'll find out. I guess Tom Trainer's here.
I have some, I did a number of comments too, but I did not put it in the document.
Well, I want to ask Tom Trainer when they're finalizing the survey.
Michael, our next meeting's Monday afternoon. I'll find out then. I'm
Okay,
not sure. I'm not sure.
But you're not finalizing it on Monday.
I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, so you might be. Okay. So we might send you some comments that are a bit rough. So I'll send you some comments, and Carol, you can send in some comments. We'll send in individual comments. And we'll see. You'll let us know whether you finalize it, and if not, we can maybe get other people's comments at our next meeting. Okay,
Can I ask a question, Michael?
sure, if it's quick, because we gotta move on, yes.
Tom, one of the problems we were having with the document was that it's a PDF, and is it possible to get a non-PDF version so we could actually, put edits with using track changes so that people can see our suggested edits?
I don't see why not. Our committee has the Word version. I'll ask Kelly to send that out.
Well, he
Yeah.
he might not have a Word version of Amelia's version.
For me, yeah, it would be
You're
good
gonna
to
have to-
this version.
I don't want, basically,
I can take the PDF and convert it to Word.
okay, fine. I probably will just send you straight comments on the side. Okay, moving on, Carol, let's see if we can go through the
Yeah, I'll go through
the
this.
third thing is the reservation signs. Sorry if I'm pushing things along, just want to try to catch up. Why don't you make your presentation so we can see?
Yeah, not at all.
the
And,
dis-
I know this looks like a long presentation. It's not. It's just that this is something that's visual. So I thought the easiest thing would be just to put it in a slide deck. So Kelly and I did like a little field trip to some of the conservation lands to look at the signage so Ray could see it, and it'll just be clear what the decision making would be. So the Barber Reservation is one of the most recent signs we've done. And this kind of shows the standard, which is the name of the reservation, Town of Sherborn Conservation Land, and when it was conserved. And also this is set parallel to the ground. It's actually parallel to the road, excuse me. It's actually on the fence that surrounds the parking lot. So those are all considerations that we're thinking about for future signs. We went and visited the schoolhouse lot, and this shows the sign that was installed by CM&D maybe about a year ago or less. They came before us to let us know and shared this language. Our feeling as we looked at it was not a standard format, but it is attractive and informative. And so our recommendation is don't remove it or add further signage. The Hope Still Reservation, you can see that this sign is really in pretty bad shape. It is right at the intersection. If you're right at the stop sign or at any of the stop signs there, well, two of the stop signs, you can see it really well. It's right there on the corner. So we liked the location, but we think it should be replaced with a new sign similar to Barber in the same format of, the name of the reservation and the rest of the information, but obviously a new one so people can read it.
Before you move on, quick question, so we can get feedback along the way. I guess we like this sign because it's big and easy to read.
It is.
Versus the more informative sign that shows the property boundaries.
Well,
Which is.
Michael, just to clarify, there's two things at a lot of these reservations. One is the sign and the other is a kiosk. So we'll talk about the kiosks too. So the kiosk is where there's more information. Is that what you meant?
Well, I'm trying to figure out whether for Hope Still, where there's no kiosk there.
Right.
You're planning a kiosk for Hope Still?
That was not suggested.
Yeah, that's what I'm just wondering, whether just having some sort of, that's what I like about the other one, is that it has the map. I assume it's a lot more expensive maybe, but I don't know. I mean, I'd be tempted to have the standard and maybe that other one as well underneath it. So people, I mean, even though people can't really access it to read it here. So I guess it's not a good place to have a map anyway. So I guess we should just go with this and we could see if we ever want to put a kiosk.
Yeah, I think that we could suggest to Forest and Trail that I don't actually know where the entrance to the trail is here, but typically our kiosks are close.
It's on Mill Street down where across from Leland Mill.
Okay.
There's an entrance there that maybe we could put something there. Jacob, I see. Has a comment.
Yeah, I think I do like the idea of having both the map, having the signs like the Barber Reservation example, but also having the map of what is the extent of the reservation. I think with the Hope Still one, if I recall where that current sign is, putting it on the back side of the facing the road would actually be the right place for having a map of the of what the extent of the trails are. And that would actually be helpful because I don't think there's any map there currently that tells you sort of how far can I walk in any particular direction.
Yeah, so I guess we'll we'll just propose to them that they find a place where we can, you think we're literally on the back of this, this sign here, because this one is not, this is on the corner, the trail goes by there, I guess, behind it. But I guess
Yes,
it's
it
not
does.
obvious that the trail is there. We tend to like kiosks near the entrance points so that people can see right away what's in stock versus, because otherwise they won't know that there's even something here. But I guess we can separately come back to the fact that whether they are willing to fund putting up a map sign or a kiosk there. So,
Okay. shall I
okay,
move on?
that's the feedback there going on.
Yep, thank you. So Leland Milpan, this sign was in okay shape, but it's kind of hidden from cars. It's set back. I don't know if I had another picture, and here's Kelly being our measuring arm. It's not all that big. It's smaller than the Barber, but also it's set back from the street, and it's kind of hard. You kind of have to search to see it. I know I often find it hard to see it. So we were thinking it would be a good idea to replace it with a single wider slide. Sorry about that it's getting actually a little cut off at the bottom. And then on the right-hand side, you can see we thought we could increase visibility by putting the sign closer to the road. We discussed whether we thought it should be perpendicular to the road or parallel to the road. And we felt that parallel, similar to the other signs, was better actually, because most people will be kind of turning in, to the parking lot. So they should be able to see it quite clearly when they're making that turn.
Okay, makes sense. And I guess, yeah, if they're willing to, right, if there's money to replace it like that, then I guess, right, I would consider this a lower priority if there's budget, if there's some budget constraint on doing all of this, that one could sort of live with this one compared to others that we need something. So if that's all I would say about that.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so this is the Leland Milpan kiosk. So you can see that the cork board in this kiosk doesn't fill it up, so it doesn't quite have enough room for, there could be room for more information. And so we think that if we expand that it would be a good idea to put more information. Kelly was hoping over at the Barber, I put together those posters that tell people kind of what in any given season or month, what they're liable to see in these lands. And Kelly's encouraging me to try to put something together like that for this reservation, which is possible because we have that inventory, which tells us quite a bit about what natural assets are in there, plants and animals. So that was one suggestion there. There's a second sign here to the right that I think the town of Sherborn, maybe CMD put up related to COVID. And at this point, they've taken down whatever was on it. So our recommendation would be just to remove that. It's just standing there empty right next to the kiosk.
that all makes sense to me.
Okay. And then I don't know if you've been to Leland Milpan recently, but there's also these other signs. The trailhead sign, we thought this was in good shape. And the nice thing about this sign is that it just makes it clear where the trailhead is, because if you've been there, you know that the kiosk is kind of in the middle of a small, not in the middle, it's at the edge of a small meadow. So we didn't think any changes here. And then this other thing about sensitive environmental area, one question is, should this be incorporated into the kiosk, or should we just leave this here? Because some people might not stop at the kiosk. But I think that, the idea of having the kiosk have a little bit more information would certainly give us the opportunity to, put a little bit more of that information in the kiosk as well. I think right now, personally, I would say it's not worth taking it out because this information is nowhere else in this.
Yeah, I mean, I could see adding it to the kiosk, but I wouldn't remove this sign. I think it's an important enough issue. If you have a duplication even, that's fine. So
Yeah.
you much more people given the issue.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't remove it, but just add more in the other kiosk.
Okay, so I'm gonna go on. Okay, now the Mcgregor Quarry Pond we've had a lot of discussion, Rick and Kelly and I. One thing about this one is that the signage is nearly hidden and, you know, my husband and I walked down here quite a bit.
Well, I'm gonna stop you and say that this is a bigger discussion, the quarry one, because people have comments and want things.
Yes,
I would almost put this off and see if we could get through a few other things in the remaining 2 minutes.
just to
before
let you
I-
know, though, I think we did come to a consensus by email, Kelly and Rick and I, which is that whatever we do, there's some thought basically of just making this sign more prominent so you don't basically walk by the trail. But we felt that that's secondary to, it's more important to first, there's a kiosk right near the quarry pond that doesn't have any of the cautions that need to be there. So we think we need to first have a discussion about how do we kind of protect the pond, which has all these, you know, special plants and it's very sensitive before we change the signage at the street.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to have a separate thing because there's a lot of comments on that. Go on.
So I'm gonna skip this over. That's it.
Okay. Fine. We only have a minute anyway before the next one. So yeah, well, maybe we'll revisit.
Yeah.
We'll see if we come back to quarry because we've had even a butter comments and
Okay.
emails about wanting to know what you're doing there and whatnot.
Yeah.
So the next thing, okay, thank you for that. Let's see. The next thing on the agenda is going to be an RDA for 21 Spywood, for which okay. I'm just kidding. I'm just putting. Okay, I see that we have somebody here about that, and I can pull up the thing on the. Or if you wanna. Let's see, I guess. Did you, Chris, did you wanna share the screen and walk through anything or,
Yes, please, if I could share my screen, that'd be great.
okay, by all means, feel free to do so. And at 7:45, we're now opening up the RDA for 21 Spywood Road. And I guess we have Chris here on behalf of the applicant.
Yes, good evening. My name is Chris Gawario from GLM Engineering, and I'm representing 21 Spywood Road for the RDA to remove a couple of trees that are on the property. Can everybody see the plan?
Yep.
Is that visible? Okay, so we've got behind the house, which is the house is right here, and within the 100-foot buffer zone, we have 3 trees. Sorry that they're sideways. This plan was meant to be the other way around, but I think I've enlarged it enough to read it. I have a 14-inch dead oak here, a 12-inch dead oak here, and a 10-inch dead spruce here. And the applicant would like to remove those 3 trees, as well as doing some other tree work, which is in the front of the house outside of the 100-foot buffer. The plan is that these trees will be taken down by a large crane, and the crane would park either on either side of the house, staying outside of the 100-foot buffer, and they would reach over and crane out the trees and the logs or whatever needs to be removed, and they would be moved off-site. The trees themselves would be cut flush as possible to the ground, and the stumps would actually remain except for, you know, the flushness of the stumps when that was cut. And that's really about it. If anybody has any questions, I can entertain those.
I'll ask Joyce if she has anything. Oh, no, Joyce can't get
Joyce-
involved. I just wanted to,
Doesn't have anything. I went there.
yeah, I know you might have something. I just want to ask one quick question before you go. Is this all in existing lawn? What's
It is an
the,
existing lawn, yes.
okay. Okay, Courtney, you can, since you went there, you can give us your 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, it's existing lawn. these were the trees that were pretty dead. One is pretty close to the house and the other two were leaning at it. And I almost feel like this drawing doesn't do it justice. It definitely looked more threatening in person. So, I mean, there was even like a little deck off the back of that. So
Did you wear your hard hat?
no, no, but yeah, it all looked pretty reasonable to me. They were
Okay.
threatening.
So there's no conditions basically other than not storing equipment in the buffer zone overnight or something like that. But they don't even plan to put equipment there, but we make that a
No.
standard condition. Is there any other conditions we need to have?
I don't think so. I was happy with them just, not removing the stumps, so.
Okay, I guess all the slash, is that going off site or are they trying to? I don't know if there's any buffer zone that's even natural there. Is
They're
all-
gonna be removing all the tree limbs and the trees themselves off the property.
Okay, no, I mean, they can put it obviously on parts of the property, it's just a matter of where. Okay, so do we have any issues? It seems like it makes a lot of sense.
I guess the only question I would have is this just all lawn? These trees are kind of in the middle of the lawn. They're not, because I'm wondering, is the intermittent stream, is it wooded there? Or what's kind of protecting and shading that? If it's-
No, so it's a bit, it's all cleared out. Like this is like the area where the trees are is lawn, with kind of trees interspersed. And then there's actually like where it ends, there's like a wall of poison ivy there, kind of at the edge of the wetlands, and it kind of drops down to like a meadow area.
Okay,
So they're not really, I mean, and they're dead. So they're really not shading anything. There's more trees, up in the top right-hand corner. There's like more trees in that area, but if you follow the directions of those two big arrows, like that area is all like meadow.
okay.
Okay, then anybody else have any comments from the commission? Anybody from the public have any comments? I guess they always have to remember to ask that. If not, I move that we approve, that we make this a -3 determination with the condition of not storing any equipment in the buffer zone. And I don't think we need any erosion or sediment control anyway. It sounds like, and I guess that's it. That's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any just further discussion? Okay, Michael, I, Kurt,
Aye.
Carol,
I,
Courtney.
Aye.
Okay, 4-0. Go forth and protect the house.
Great. Thank you very much for your consideration on this matter tonight and have a good evening.
Yep, you too.
So
Let's see, 7:51. We have 9 minutes before the hearings. We can let's see, maybe we can deal with a set of minutes. Unless there's some other quick, I guess the warrant. I guess I'll deal with a few other quick things. The warrant was in there. It's mainly for the annual membership fee for the MACC. It's the largest amount. I think it's about $711, for which we get good value, access to the training as well as support from there. And been doing that every year for a long time. And then there were a few smaller things that I couldn't tell, but they were like $10 or $20. I don't know if Deborah, you know what those items were. It wasn't very descriptive.
Yeah, what that is, Michael, is certified mailers that I took to the post office and
Okay, so
needed to be reimbursed for.
okay, fine. Sorry, just letting in a few people. Let's see. We'll go in there. Well, hello, Kitty. It's been a long time. Nice to see you.
You're muted. Kate.
You're on mute, Kitty, but you know you're on mute, so I can't hear you.
Maybe she doesn't want to talk to you.
No, I saw her mouth moving. That's why I was a little. It's been a long time seeing her. She's a long-term resident. Served on a lot of committees in town, so I couldn't resist welcoming her since I haven't seen her for a while. Okay, that's the warrant. I guess we could also, let's see. So let's see about the minutes. If I go and pull up start with the oldest ones. And I guess I'm going to share screen. I don't know to what extent people, let's see, here we go. People seeing the July 7th minutes.
Yep.
Are they too small? Can I make it bigger? What do you think?
I'm looking at a printed version, so it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, anybody else care about the size? I've read them. Obviously, I don't know whether Courtney, and I guess anybody have any, depending on how many comments you have, in getting through this.
Well, we may as well.
Carol, you want to
start,
give me your
Michael.
substantive ones? If you give me your
Yeah,
substantive
I'll give
one.
you the ones where there's like something that's actually incorrect. So under townwide, see under land management, it says townwide conversation. And then in the second line, it says the Conservation Commission approve review of the language, which I think meant KM asked that the Conservation Commission review the language used in the flyer.
Well, he wanted us to review the language related to the commission.
Right, but it
Actually,
says
did it say
approve
approve?
review. So I think you just choose one of those. Choose either approve or,
Approve the language used in the flyer. Okay, next.
yep.
Under the
And
initial.
then it says KM McClintock. For some reason, both the initials and McClintock. So I would just say KM there.
Okay, oops, not too far. Next.
I have a question about the land acquisition. Others may remember. It says KM mentioned the proposed land acquisition. I thought that might be a donation rather than a land acquisition. Wasn't it a donation actually?
We'll call it a donation. It'll be simpler because then we don't have to change the preposition. Next. I'm assuming you, Courtney, or Kurt will chime in if there's anything here.
Yeah, I've got something that's a couple pages away.
Okay, fine.
Under commissioners at present, Courtney's should be initials and not EK.
Oh, what a
I don't
cat.
know. I've gone by Eck a lot in my life, so.
And her kid calls her yuck. Let's see. Okay, next.
Have anything more on that page?
Okay, I'm scrolling down here and I'll stop here for the moment. I don't know whether I've reached Kurt's thing yet.
No, not yet.
The formatting is a little messed up here, but we'll figure that out. It looks much better in Word than this online Word.
What page are we on now?
We're on page 2 to 3.
Oh,
Just
it
tell
needs
me where
to
your
be-
next comment is and I'll go there.
Oh, look, land acquisition. We remember we were supposed to report that back to
Yes, we're gonna vote on it tonight and then,
I was like, look, Carol volunteered.
yes. If anybody else wants to step in, any of the new people, Kurt, or you can ask Matt if they change their mind over time and would like to do it. I think Carol said that she's willing to step aside some of the new members when they get there. might decide to do it. You could also talk to Carol about when the meetings are.
I did send an email to find out. I don't know yet.
Oh, but what I'm just saying that either Kurt or Matt's not here, or anybody new could contact you about when the meetings are, and they might want to attend one just to see if it's their cup of tea.
Under 29 Bear Hill Road, it says Mr. McIntyre provided summary of the project, so it should say a summary of the project.
Yeah,
Whoops,
Never mind.
29 Bear Hill.
there it is. Okay,
Road.
fine. Got it. No problem.
Now, the other thing I noticed in the discussion is that, I mean, I made a note saying that the buffer zone from an intermittent stream extended to the area of work, but it will take place in lawn, which is already altered buffer zone. I don't know whether that's additional information which we could include. All it says here is all of the work will take place in lawn already at altered buffer zone.
I think this covers it enough.
Okay.
Once you feel
And then
stronger about it.
It
Yes.
says Ms. Hastings listed conditioning aspects. I think wouldn't we usually say listed conditions including? Rather than conditioning aspects.
Yes, no, that's awkward. Okay. We have a couple of minutes left here and hopefully we'll get through this.
I get, Deborah, one thing I would suggest in the future is if you can reduce the number of specific references to the individual discussions and summarize them just by saying commissioners, because I'm noticing there's a little bit of repetition because like one person will say something and another commissioner is basically agreeing with them. I don't think we need to say it in both cases.
Yeah, I have it on my list to talk to you, Deborah, about just sort of that whole approach of whether there's ways to summarize it, whether you feel you can do that kind of summary or that we can slowly move away as you feel more comfortable from the he said, she said.
And Deborah's learning our lingo. So.
It's an art.
You're almost at my comment. If you scroll down.
Okay, then I'm gonna just go right to your comment.
Yeah.
Carol, what do you got?
Right there under proposed 40B farm road homes,
Right.
the last paragraph, KO commented. I think that should be me, KS commented.
Okay. You're trying to change your name. The innocent or the guilty, I don't know why.
Or it could have been MO if it was Matt, but I'm pretty sure that was.
You're right. It's one of those new people.
In that same discussion, I felt like the second paragraph was kind of garbled a little bit. And I think it should be rewritten that it just should say the proposed, like take out where it says CM maintained, because I didn't maintain anything. It's just the
Yeah.
proposed,
Right.
the
Mhm.
proposed 40B development has 2 wetlands that would be divided or interrupted by the development. And then you can say there was discussion about connectivity between the wetlands and that consideration should be given to wildlife passage, or just say, actually, you don't even have to talk about connectivity because they're not connected now. Just consideration about wildlife passage was really what we talked about, Michael. I did mention it was similar to the Coolidge Street site, but I think that's just confusing for anybody who's not on the commission to understand why I said that. That's only relevant because.
I just say wildlife passages.
Yeah.
Could be an issue.
Yeah, so
Okay.
wildlife passages across or under the road could be an issue. Yeah, something like that. I guess that probably was what we were talking about. Now that I think about it, at Coolidge, it was really between the buildings. So,
No, it was underneath the road.
yeah, you're right. It was, and between the buildings.
Wildlife that could be an issue. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I think that's fine. Yep.
Okay.
And then I think where it says she opined about the lack of connectivity, I think that's already, you can take all that out because we just said it, right?
Okay, next.
I have nothing else.
Anybody else have anything else?
Nope.
Deborah, we'll have to talk about the fact that we're supposed to put a list of documents here. That we have to talk with Elizabeth.
Yes,
about that.
yeah.
Okay, I move that we accept the July 7th minutes as edited.
Second,
Okay, any discussion? Michael, I, Kurt,
Aye.
Carol,
I,
and Courtney.
Aye.
Okay. I am now, we just here, let me stop sharing and then let me just save this. I guess this file's automatically saved, but I want to rename it. Actually, I don't have to even rename it. It's automatically in here.
Coolidge.
Okay, fine. Now we have, let's open up the hearing. Yep, let's see. Now opening up, I'm reopening the hearing that was continued from the last meeting on 100, to the notice of intent for 108 Coolidge Street. That hearing is now opened and we've, as everybody has seen, we've gotten some news that DEP is taking on issuing a superseding order of conditions, and which would start, well, that process will start next week with a site visit by DEP on Tuesday, August 9th. And I think we've managed to notify abutters. And if I understand it correctly, Courtney can add some more by those, and Joyce too. But I'll just finish with the fact that we can meet at the site. People who can attend, they can meet at the site. I think we're gonna have to ask them about where there's parking and where we're meeting. I think we're meeting probably on the Greenwood side because it's too risky to do this. Any there, we'll have to figure out where the parking is, but maybe Joyce knows more. But we're all, commissioners are allowed to attend, can attend and can actually, I think, join on the site, and our representative, I think, are allowed to join on the walk. Residents and other people may be interested, other interested parties. I don't think it's subject to whether the applicant will allow that. And so I guess we should make a formal request. And Joyce, have we talked to them about who's allowed that?
Well, that usually takes place on the site. I spoke with the applicant and he's thinking that everybody will gather on Greenwood because DEP didn't necessarily specifically say where, but that would be the best place to park, safest place. There's also a public trail that goes through the middle of the property that anybody can walk on.
Joyce or
Oh,
Michael?
really? Even, hold on, just to finish that before you say. That trail is a public trail. Is that an easement that stays with the stays with the new owners?
Yes.
Oh. So they have to build around the trail. Okay. So people can join and they at least walk in part of the way if they wanted to.
DEP will make a very brief presentation and explain the procedure. The applicant will make a brief presentation and then things will proceed from there.
Is this the actual, I know, how people raise their hand. So it's unclear whether this is the actual confirmation of the wetland line, or is this?
Well, I assume that DEP's out there to walk the property. I don't know if they're walking the whole wetland line. We won't know until we meet out there. I don't know if they're there to confirm the wetland line or to review this is a notice of intent for soil testing. So I don't know if it will be to review the soil testing or the wetland line, or we won't know until we meet with DEP.
Okay, I have some more questions and maybe Courtney knows, but I guess I'll go. I'll start. Tom, you'll go second. I'm gonna let a commissioner speak first. Carol?
Yeah, I just was wondering if anyone can share with us what is the process in this situation? And in what way is the Sherborn Commission involved going forward?
Well, we're not really involved. We're basically observing.
Okay,
And
so,
if we have any, and we can make comments to DEP. And any comments can be given to DEP and they'll either take them under consideration or they won't when they write their superseding order.
okay, so basically, from here on out, the DEP just goes through the same process that we would if it were coming before us and they write the order of conditions.
Right. I mean, the DEP generally tries to incorporate the commission's concerns in a superseding.
At what point in the process should we express those concerns typically?
I would say as early as possible. Like, go to if you're attending the hearing and you have concerns, then I would either raise them there or we may perhaps provide an email address.
And then when is the hearing?
This is the process. So what he's gonna do is, this is the site walk.
Yep.
He's gonna gather his information, he goes back, and then he will prepare a response, whether the response will either be a superseding approval or denial.
So
There is
you're
no-
saying
there's
this
no-
is, this
there's no
kind of
plan.
is, this is it, and then after this sidewalk, we can prepare input, we can provide input to Mass DEP.
Yeah, I believe the letter that came out has his contact information on it. That we got. We
But
did get a letter from them.
But there's no actual formal hearing date at DEP. It's a
No.
closed process without any formal meeting time to make input, other than the fact that we should prepare comments as soon as possible. Because we don't know what time frame, other than maybe we can get feedback from the person on Tuesday. But we should ask, because otherwise, because we already have comments based on our initial site walk, so we should develop that. We should develop, I would suggest, given if people have comments on this project, that they should submit them as soon as possible to Courtney, me, and Joyce, so that we make sure that we get things done in time.
So I have another question for you. Is Mass DEP then looking at it only under the state regulations and it completely bypasses Sherborn regulations?
Correct.
And this is, and I guess we still wait to see whether whether they themselves will approve the wetland line versus just approve the project, the soil testing. We don't even know to what extent they will go that far, but that's one of the bigger questions to ask on Tuesday. Or even maybe we can, even before Tuesday, we can maybe send an email with that kind of question. Does that make sense, Joyce, to possibly send an email just ahead of time, just to ask them about that, or wait till Tuesday?
Doesn't hurt to ask questions.
Okay.
Has
Okay.
the entire development been submitted? I thought they've only submitted this.
This is for soil testing.
And once this process starts with the state, do they have the legal right to continue it with the state rather than come back to the town for the other part?
Well, I don't know. I think if they amend it or they change, I believe if they change, materially change the plan, like to include an entire subdivision, it has to come back to, back again to the Conservation Commission, but that's a good question for Tuesday.
Okay, any other commissioners then? Tom Trainer?
Thanks, Michael. First, I have a point of order question. And based on the answer to that, I might have more questions. I thought you started a hearing for 108 Coolidge Street. Did you then switch to
Oh,
Washington Street?
we switched because they're both being handled the same day. with the visit there first, so you're right. We're gonna deal with 108, we should be dealing with 108 now, but I guess that's the one that's coming second. On the site visits, I think,
I thought it was the opposite.
oh, maybe it is.
No, okay.
Well,
Whatever it is.
now I'm really confused.
There's
I
two-
have
there's-
questions.
Yeah,
I have questions relating to Washington Street. Should I ask them
why don't
now
you,
or?
why don't you wait till we open that one?
Okay,
Michael,
thank-
Yeah, and one thing I would say, I think it's good that Tom picked up on that, is that, we probably need to officially open the
We're
Zero
open-
Washington Street hearing then, if we didn't open it already.
Well,
Well,
I want to open and deal with this one, and then I'll move to that one.
well, so at this point, I mean, we're no longer, they have taken over this process. And so we should probably close this as a hearing. Joyce, what do you think?
I think you should probably leave it open until after the site walk.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep, then we'll do that.
Okay.
But did
Um,
we actually open the hearing before this discussion, or do we open a hearing for 108 Coolidge?
We opened up
108.
108, but just about everything we talked about is applicable to 108.
Okay, but my point is they're two separate NOIs, and so do we need, I don't know, Joyce, do you have a thought on this, whether we need to also open that hearing?
We are going to.
We're gonna continue this.
We're going to continue this and then open the other one. It's a done deal. There's no question about that issue.
Okay,
So it's on the agenda. Okay, right, we can talk about the so yes, the 108 is a much smaller property, a much smaller set of wetlands that to be delineated, but again, it's just soil testing in the outer buffer, in the buffer zone. But right, I mistakenly started talking about where to park on Greenwood. I got ahead of myself. I apologize. On 108 Coolidge Street. I think that's near the corner of the aqueduct, or well, I can't tell if it's Meadow, right? I'll have to figure out where to park. Do we have any instructions about parking there?
No, I don't. I
Uh,
would, wherever it's safest.
All right,
Joyce, which one do we go to first? Because they're both being,
look at the
Zero one.
letter. What? What'd you say?
0 Washington is first.
okay,
That's what I thought, yeah.
The letter is in the meeting folder if you want to review it and get the email address.
If people have comments, remember, send them again to Joyce, Courtney and me. And we'll compile them. Or if we have any issues, get back to people. Okay. So at this point, I would like to continue. Well, let's see, if I look at what we have scheduled for Deborah, when do we have 116 Farm Road and when do we have 26 Western Ave?
Okay, you have, Western Ave and the other one are for the next meeting.
I know, but what time? I have to.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Ugh,
I don't see, right, I don't see the advertisement, so I don't know what they've been put in the paper for.
hold on a Second, I believe it's 8 and 8:30, I think. Would that make sense? I do not have it in front of me, but I did read it today and I
Okay, that's a little tight. We should talk about when we're doing the advertisements.
yeah,
I would like to, somebody can consult with Courtney and I as well. I don't know whether you talked about it with Joyce. I tend to like, I mean, I don't know how which one's first and which one's more straightforward. Sometimes I like to leave more than a half an hour.
okay. I sort of think Elizabeth set up the time and then I reviewed the legal notice
Okay, I guess next time we do that, just ask her to touch base with us.
Okay, or if it's I will
Yeah.
definitely, so hopefully that's our intent.
So the question is whether we pair these things before the 8 o'clock meeting. And then if it turns out we need to do more on them, we could always continue them till later in the night. So I would probably think that we can do whether we need 10 minutes, whether we do 7:50 and 7:40. Okay, I move that we continue 108 Coolidge Street hearing until August 18th at 7:40.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Michael, I, Carol,
Hi.
Kurt,
Aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
okay. I am now reopening the hearing delayed for 0 Washington Street. Most of the previous discussion applies in terms of what the process will be like, and we'll find out more on Tuesday. And again, give comments on that too. In the meeting folder are the original NOIs. So that if people wanted to see what has been proposed for each of these things, those things are there. So I put them there so that people could see what they, in essence, what has gone to the state. Okay, Tom Trainer.
Thank you, Michael. What time is the Washington Street site visit on the 9th?
11 a.m.
11 a.m. And you mentioned a letter from the DEP. Is it possible for a resident to get a copy of that?
By all means.
I can email it to you now.
Okay.
Thank you, because I did get a copy of the NOI. And I think my last question, it wasn't clear from me reading that application. Was the soil testing for one home or multiple homes, or is it clear?
No, it's one of the issues. That's choice.
It's just for site. It's just a bunch of site, not for specific lots or areas.
Although the thing is that even comes up before is that the single family is what's checked on the box on the NOI. Is that true? So there is something we have to think about with applications. But they checked it as a single family. We have no way of knowing what it really turns out to be, and I'm not sure we can ask for much if they're just doing soil testing for a septic system. They could just be doing that for a single family home. It's only when they want to do soil testing for stormwater issues that implies that there's at least 4 units. So that would, if they include that in the NOI, then the question would be that it couldn't be just for a single family house. So we'd have to get that cleared up.
Can I ask one more last question?
Sure.
I promise.
No, you can even ask 2.
Thank you. Given the strange nature of having it bounce to the DP, have any of the abutters been notified of site visits and status and hearings? And
Courtney, you can speak to that.
So any of the abutters that emailed us, requesting information that I had an email for them, I sent out the information. At least for, I believe, 0 Washington, there was one abutter who was going to try to track down as many neighbors as possible to let them know.
What about the 108 Coolidge? Have you ever had any contact?
Yeah, there was one person, and I sent him the information, and I asked him if he was able to pass it to any neighbors that he had contact info for.
Okay.
Why do I have a memory that in the original submission, though, they did send out the letters, because I thought that was one of the issues, was whether the green cards had come back.
Every NOI has that.
I know, but that's my point. Doesn't that go to abutters?
Yes, so they were noticed, they received notice about the original NOIs, and obviously, if they have followed the meetings, they should know. But, you know, I mean, it's a long chain to follow, so we're just trying to do anything we can to update anyone who expressed a particular interest in knowing what was going on with this.
All right. And this one's a little different since it's mainly for just the soil testing, so it's unclear what the project will actually amount to, which would be a much bigger issue to notify people. We'll have to figure out. But I think at the next level, it'll stay at the town level, and if it even becomes if these become larger projects like an affordable housing project, then obviously there's a whole other process by which people will get notarized. But when they come to doing the project work themselves, they will have to notify all the abutters all over again, because the notice of intent or the filing as a 40B, which would be separate, would then have to go to all the abutters again. So there's a window for them.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Sure. Any other questions, comments on 0 Washington Street? Okay, I move that we continue 0 Washington Street to 7:50 on August 18th.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, Michael, I, Kurt,
Aye.
Courtney,
I
Carol,
Aye.
4-0. Okay, let's see where we are on our agenda here. Okay, we have a notice of intent. Oh yeah, let's do the certificates of compliance. We're only 4 minutes behind by some miracle. Joyce, take it away.
Okay, 32 Old Orchard Street is, that was a septic system. I went out and inspected it. They installed the 4 monuments as they were requested to do. They all have signs on them that says, it's not the plaque, this was pre-plaque. But they've got wetland, resource area signs on them. The grass is growing, very well, and I would recommend a certificate of compliance. I would also, when this goes out as a certificate of compliance, make note to them that the straw wattles all need to be removed from the site. They're still in place stake. They haven't taken them up yet.
Oh, are they in the middle of lawn, or where are
It
they?
goes along the edge of the driveway and along the edge, but the grass is, for what we're having this year, the grass is growing pretty well,
Okay,
very well. So
you know,
again, I would recommend a certificate. I have pictures if you're interested.
that's okay. I'll take.
But I think this one is pretty straightforward.
And the conditions in perpetuity are going to be.
Are no pesticides, plaques, and whatever number 11 standard is. At the moment, I can't remember.
Yeah, there's usually fertilizer related.
One was, yeah, I had fertilizer, plaques, and 11 might be notify people, keep them in,
Okay, no, I was separating fertilizer from pesticide.
okay. No, this one I think was together.
Okay. I'm comfortable going on the agent's report. Does anybody want to explore more on this? Okay, I move that we grant the certificate of compliance for 32 Old Orchard Road.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, Michael, I, Carol,
Aye.
Courtney,
I
Kurt.
Aye.
Okay. One thing that gets completed there. Moving on to the other certificate of compliance.
So 151 Forest Street was a notice of intent that predated me. I think it was in 2020, or I think it was 2020. They've done a fantastic job. This was for at 151 Forest Street. They were putting a fence up around the upper lawn. You wanted to add a barrier at the upper lawn. They had a patio up there. This is in the reaches of the lawn, and then they had a set of stairs that went down to access the lake. And if I can share my screen. You know, it might not be, so I put in the folder, I put pictures of the project, but if you, but at any rate, I'm gonna bring up.
Do we have any pictures of the area that they revegetated? I only see the stairs.
I think in the very end, I'm gonna share my screen if you'll allow me.
By all means, you always have permission.
This one was on Farm Pond. Is that what it is?
Yeah. This is the one where they were they were eliminating a lot of invasives right in front of off the lawn there. They were doing a whole space besides the thing down there. And I guess,
Yeah.
and the dock, and they were going down there, and that was quite an impressive set of stairs.
All right, you able to see my pictures?
Yep.
All right, so this is the stairs going down. I mean, they were very well done, and what's underneath is it's hardly disturbed. This is.
Oh, there's even vegetation underneath?
Yeah, no, there's,
Wow.
they really did a remarkable job. And they're very long, I will say. This is, they replaced the dock. The dock is all on pads, the feet that are all pads as you requested. This is the same boathouse, or the shed was replaced, and they put them on helical piers instead of sitting on the ground as they were previously done.
Love helical piers.
Yep, so see, these got little feet,
Yep.
and the beach didn't change. Again, little feet. And on my way up, I didn't take a picture of I didn't include the picture of the lawn, but there's a fence around the lawn up top that's just outside the 100-foot. If you look at the site plan, it shows where that limit is. It's just a very small corner of the lawn up top that's in the buffer zone. So this project also included vista pruning of 2 trees. And so am I still here? Everything just turned off. Hold on one second. So my comments were, I think the project was done very well. It's very well stabilized. There are a couple of issues. One is you had asked that 3 plaques be placed on the fence up top, and then 2 plaques on the fence up top and 1 on the railing going down the stairs. So they haven't installed those yet, but at the time that they were doing it, they didn't know where to do the plaques. So I spoke with the homeowner, and he's going to go down to the office and get 3 plaques as soon as they're open, and install them on the fence, 2 on the fence and 1 on the stairs going down to the pond. And he's going to take pictures of them and send them to the office. And then you requested in condition number 55 of the special conditions that 2 metal tags be placed on the 2 trees that you were Vista pruning. And that, and labeled as such. And he hasn't done that, but he's gonna go get 2 of the gardener's metal tags and place them on the trees, take pictures and send them.
Okay,
So those are those are 2 very simple comments. I mean, to something that he can resolve. The homeowner recorded the order of conditions back when it was issued, and he inadvertently neglected to record the special conditions that are prepared by the Conservation Commission for under the bylaw. And so we do need to get those recorded because the continuing conditions are included, and there are a number of continuing conditions for this one. So we will need to get those special conditions recorded. So when the certificate of compliance gets recorded, I believe that we should re-record both the WPA order of conditions and then attach those special conditions with it, so it becomes part of the chain of title. I spoke with the homeowner about that, and he had no issues with that. But it really is something that needs to be done in order to provide a clear understanding of what your conditions were. So I do recommend that you issue a certificate of compliance, whether you vote to do that tonight and hold the certificate until we get the pictures for the markers and the tags on the 2 trees. I'll leave that to you, but I think that's something he could probably take care of. He was going to do it right away if the office had been open. When I spoke with him this afternoon, he would have gone down and gotten them then. So.
and how did the beyond the fence in the buffer zone, beyond the lawn,
It looked undisturbed.
what was growing there? Because they totally revegetated that whole area.
So I didn't know that, because again, I read through the order and it didn't really say that. So it looked totally undisturbed to me. If you had asked me what it looked like, I would said it's natural wooded area.
So it looks like a nice understory and covered there because it was
Yes.
a lot of invasives and whatever else. So that looks like they succeeded. No, it seemed like they had a good contractor who was.
I was gonna
yeah.
say, I remember they
understood.
hired somebody who seemed really, really good with the native plants.
If I, again, had I known that, I would have taken pictures of it, but it just looked so native and thick. I couldn't see the pond. I mean, because it sits up so high, I could see the pond over the shrub layer, but it was very thick.
Okay, great.
Joyce, I
Um,
don't remember the Vista pruning. Is that, what kind of trees were those and what level were they pruned to?
So again, I wasn't part of this and it didn't call out for it. I don't have the original
There was some
plan
limbing. There was some limbing that we allowed them to do.
on 2 trees, just on,
Yes,
there were
on 2
2
trees.
trees that was
Just-
allowed.
Oh, so they're mature trees and we allowed them to limb them up.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
and that's already been done. And again, it was hard to tell, so.
Yeah,
that
we probably should have had pictures, but maybe there are, but it's okay. Given the some timing issues here, I'm gonna cause 8:40. No, it looks all good, and as what I recall, I would make a motion that we grant a certificate of compliance subject to receiving the pictures of the plaques and the labels on the trees. And I guess I'll stop there and then I have a discussion item.
Second.
Discussion. Who's gonna do the recording? I can't even remember now.
We've been doing the recording.
Okay, so
So
we
I
could,
told him, yeah, I told him we would be contacting him to send in 2 separate checks made out to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the recording fee.
okay, so I'm gonna say the sticker apply. I'm gonna amend my own motion to say that it's subject to also getting the checks for the re-recording of the conditions.
I would second that as well.
Okay, please. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, Michael, I, Kurt,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Courtney.
Aye.
Okay, 4-0. So leave it to get those things there. We have a few minutes. I need to go turn off something here, so I'm just gonna go mute for a second.
I can hear him walking around upstairs.
He's not muted.
He is muted. I'm in his dining room.
Oh,
We lost power. That's why I was late to the meeting. I had to drive over here.
oh, so you actually made it over there. Why do you think you lost power?
I'm pretty sure it's a tree limb down on Green Lane because it was only like 14 customers affected. I'm like, yep, that's our half of Green Lane.
I think the trees are really suffering. I wonder if some of them are starting to have problems. We're having some work done on our driveway and it's like the soil is just dry as dust.
Yeah.
Pray for rain.
Did you intend to still be muted, Michael?
Thought one issue you have to remember when there's a power outage that I had almost forgot about, but Daryl reminded me, is that if we find out that the power outage is significant, then it's not clear that whether we should hold whether you can hold a Zoom meeting. Because I'm not sure there's any defined line between when there's enough of the public who could have access to our meeting, if they don't have power. But something to think about if it comes up again. Let's see now. So let me just get ready for the let's see. Just going to pull up the document because it's almost 8:40. Let's see, farm. Let's
Did
see.
we voted on that motion right before you got up? Yeah.
That's my recollection.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay, it's 8:40. Notice of a public hearing, Conservation Commission, Town of Sherborn, Massachusetts. Notice is hereby given that the Conservation Commission of the Town of Sherborn will hold a public hearing by Zoom at 8:40 on August 4th, 2022. The hearing shall be held pursuant to Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws as amended, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sherborn Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 17, which we might have to change that number, to consider a proposal by Brian Moore to install a septic system at 49 Farm Road, map 11, lot 59. Work may be proposed within the buffer zone. This application is available for viewing at the Sherborn Conservation Office. All persons desiring to be heard will be given the opportunity to speak at this hearing. And this is what's been advertised. So I hereby open the hearing. I think we have all the green cards. Is that correct? All the appropriate green cards have been filed with us, Joyce? Okay, I'll just take that as a lip read.
Correct, sorry.
That's all right. I'm learning. Zoom has helped my ability to read lips. Okay, so we have that done there. We see we have the applicant as well as his engineer here. I will let you take it away. You can have the screen or I can show things depending on what you'd like. Dan,
If I could share my screen, that would be great.
by all means.
All right. For the record, Dan McIntyre representing Brian Moore, the homeowner. Can everyone see the screen or the map?
Yep.
Okay. So just to orientate you to the site, at the bottom of the screen is Farm Road. There's a circular driveway that comes around down here. House is kind of in the middle of the lot. The existing septic system is right in the behind the house, and the well is up in the front yard up by the road. The lot is essentially surrounded by wetlands on 3 sides. You'll see that the existing septic system is really a series of cesspools and overflow cesspools located within the 50-foot buffer. Some as close to as 25 to 30 feet from the wetlands. We're proposing to install a new Title V compliance system further from the wetlands. We're going to be outside the 50-foot buffer over in the side yard here to kind of maximize the distance to the wetlands, as well as stay away from the well and meet the Board of Health setback regulations on that. Let's see, there is an area of high groundwater, so we do have to mound it up. As I mentioned, the system is outside the 50-foot buffer, but there is some grading inside the 50-foot buffer, as shown right here. We're proposing to take down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees, 3 of them inside the 50-foot buffer, 2 of them in the 50 to 100-foot buffer. We're proposing to mitigate that by planting 4 new trees and asking for a credit on a small tree that was recently planted in the 50-foot buffer. We're proposing 1, 2, 3, 4 new trees here to mitigate removal of the existing trees where we want to put the septic system. So with respect to the system itself, we think it's a vast improvement over the existing system insofar as getting away from the wetlands, and probably more importantly, getting it out of the groundwater table. During the site walk, we did amend the wetland line a bit from what our wetland scientist looked at down in this area here. The old line that we had was coming through here, but in cooperation with the conservation agent, we feel that it is actually further toward the lawn area. So we did revise 2 flags here, and this is now wetland here where it wasn't previously on our plans. And we are in agreement with that. We believe that is a wetland right there. So in addition to the septic, there were a couple other issues that were brought up by the conservation agent during her site walk, as well as an abutter. Those were related to some yard debris in the wetlands down here, some yard clippings, some logs being chopped up. There's a shed that was installed down here next to the wetland on the abutting property. And then there's just kind of general encroachment of the lawn closer to the wetlands than the commission feels comfortable with. So we're proposing to mitigate that by a couple of reasons, by a couple of things. One, the homeowner agreed to remove all the grass clippings and move his log cuttings out of the wetland down in this area here. We're also proposing a new lawn line. This hatched area right here, about 150 square feet. We're proposing to stop mowing that and let it to naturally revegetate into a better buffer zone there. And you'll see we're planting 2 of our proposed trees right in this area here to help define that new mow line. And finally, we're proposing some permanent bounds. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 permanent bounds here with the placards to help minimize future encroachment toward the wetland. So with that, I think we comply with the Sherborn bylaw as well as Wetlands Protection Act in putting this new septic system in. And with that, I can open it up to questions for the commission.
Okay, thank you. Joyce, do you want to make any initial comments?
So they have the comments that I had on the sidewalk, they've addressed all of those. And I just wanted to point out that the giving of the lawn area here, it wasn't that we thought the lawn went too close. They're actually giving up 150 square feet of lawn as mitigation for this shed that's in the 55-foot, I mean, within the 50-foot buffer zone. So it's 55 square feet of shed, and they're giving up 150 square feet of lawn as mitigation for that shed.
Yeah, that's down in this area here. You're right.
Right. I'm sorry, I'm pointing to it on my screen and you can't see me pointing.
Yeah, I'm pointing on my screen right here, the shed.
This is absolutely the only place that this septic system can go. As you can see, it's everything else is within buffer zone or within well setback. So between the 4 concrete bounds and the mitigation that they're offering and picking up the lawn clippings, I think that's addressed all of my concerns. I wanted to just ask Dan, so you're proposing to put in a 12-inch compost sock? Is that what you're proposing to put in on this site?
Yes, we thought that was an appropriate erosion control for this particular lot.
Okay, so I think you should have we should call it, there should be a row of they should have a row of fabric fence also on site, just in case, because there is a slight slope to this property. So
Okay.
in the event we ever get rain again, it might be nice just to have that. It's not expensive, and it can be, if they could just have it on site in case.
Yeah, I don't see an issue with that. If you want to make that a condition, we can let the contractors know to have that on site just in case.
And I think that was all. They had addressed the things that we talked about were there was lawn. I mean, the shed is in an area that was pre-disturbed. It was a pre-disturbed area, existing altered area. The shed was brought in within the last number of years, and that's why we asked them to think about mitigation for that shed. There are some planting beds along the stone wall, but those looked like they were pre-existing planting beds. These are comments from an abutter's concern. And while looks like there was some activity getting down towards the wetlands for, I believe, tree removal, that a number of trees had fallen in the wetlands, but we didn't observe any actual cutting of shrubs or trees in the wetlands that an abutter asked us to make sure wasn't taking place. And I think those are the things that we noted.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it to first commissioners. Any commissioners have any questions? I'll let you go first. Okay.
I think, was there one other thing on the abutters list? Was it equipment storage or something?
They showed it looked like some kind of snow machine that was near the shed, maybe.
Yep.
I don't think I observed any there, but maybe I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I didn't see any either, but I wanted to make sure we went through every item. I didn't observe any while we were there, so I'm assuming that it's been moved out.
Okay. I guess we could have a condition that there's no storage of equipment with motorized equipment. Well,
Well, just to point out, the garage is right here.
Yeah, I don't know if that's is that outside the 50?
It's right on the 50. Yeah, I guess it would be outside the 50. Yeah.
Yeah. If the applicant would be amenable.
The applicant is
Close.
waving his hand.
The applicant would like the commission to understand that our entire parcel is surrounded by wetlands in every single direction. That our driveway, our automobiles, our cars, I mean, I just want to make sure they understand how enveloped we are by the wetlands. And when we were made aware that there was a problem with a, snow machine, next to the shed, we moved it. But
Yeah,
if we do an overreach, we're gonna have to find a place to put our cars, which
Oh, yes, I agree.
I don't think we can do.
Right.
Yeah, we're not gonna,
I don't
Yeah.
think we can't say that you can't store with equipment in the 50-foot because his whole driveway's in the 50.
It's already altered, right?
Yeah, and we.
We won't- we
we'll
won't
move the
make you
snow machine
park
and we'll
Okay.
just keep that area clean. That's fine with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners?
I mean, I would just say that, yeah, I mean, most of this like many other properties in Sherborn, most of the property is within buffer, and this seems like an improvement, and it seems like the best place to put it. And I appreciate the mitigation with the trees. I did want to comment that those should be native trees, straight species. They should not be non-native. Yeah, I thought that looks pretty good.
yeah, there's literally nowhere else for this system to go. And I mean, just getting this out of the groundwater is a huge improvement. So
Right. This is a phenomenal improvement for the wetlands perspective, just to have this improved septic system here.
Brian, was there one additional dead tree up near the shed that you
Yeah,
needed?
I was going to bring that up.
Yes, there's a large maple that is actually right near a couple of wetlands flags, which died in the last 2 years. I won't comment about it dying relative to other site work going on next door, but it did die in the last year. It's crotched right at the bottom. It's got to be about 150 years old.
Alright,
One
so-
half of the maple's dead. The other half is probably not far behind it. Our plan would be, when we do the tree removal, is to have that dropped at the same time. Of course, we would have the mitigation and the erosion control in place first. And it's hardwood, so we'd probably cut it up and split it outside of the buffer zone and use it in our fireplace, which is also outside of the buffer zone.
Oh, really? I don't know. Do you have a fireplace that could be outside? Not so
I
clear.
think
No,
I think just-
outside of the buffer zone.
Not so
keeping the
clear.
work within the existing lawn is probably.
I would like, let's include that dead tree in the
So I'm gonna add that 6th tree and
Yes.
just say that
it's dead.
work to split and your cordwood should be within the limits of the existing disturbed lawn.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, so we're adding in the removal of the dead tree. Since it's
Thank you.
already dead and it's not providing any crown, I don't think we need a mitigation.
Was this the one that was like leaning precariously?
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so we'll add that in so that everything is pulled together in one bucket, so to speak. That was my one comment, besides the fact that this is obviously a tremendous improvement for the wetlands, just to get this new septic system in. And it looks like we've got all the kind of appropriate mitigation. Let's see, so I don't have any issues with this, it's just a matter of we have to I guess there's not many, nothing out of the ordinary in terms of special conditions that I think we need to go over here, other than the standard meetings and getting the erosion control in place and approved before doing it, and the species selection we'll be careful. I think you wrote in the thing there that it was going to be sugar maples or white oaks. I can't remember in the letter there.
That's what we were thinking, yeah.
Willow, one willow, which I hopefully is native. I think there's one, I have one on my wetlands. And sugar maples and white oaks. Carol, is there a possibility that a sugar maple would not be a native?
No,
No.
Oh,
maple is native. Another native that might work there is silver maple, because I think they like a little wetter conditions, and obviously red maple, which is well adapted to swamp.
Yeah.
I
We
don't know.
like diversity. We'll go for silver maple. We're writing it down now. We'll see if we can get some.
Okay, so we'll put in the conditions, native trees. And you can give us the final choices. what we often do is we just have before they're planted, you just send in a list of what you're going to plant and you just get the agent's approval. So that we know it's actually chosen in the end. Okay. Then let's see, are there any other special conditions that we should discuss before we close the hearing? I can't think of any. And I guess Joyce, I think we,
Dan, where's your stockpile area?
oh yeah,
Well, I didn't really show it on the plan. I think I've got it in the erosion control note that if any temporary stockpiles are created, they need to be protected with a string of straw wattles. But I suspect there'll be a small stockpile next to where the tanks are excavated. The excavation for the septic system, it really won't create a stockpile. They'll use that excavated material to create this berm slope here, which will be protected by the compost socks. So I think we've got it covered in the notes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And just another point, we also put a detail for a dewatering sump. There may, depending on time of year, there may be need for dewatering these tank holes. So we did put a dewatering sump here to pump into if needed.
okay.
I'm gonna put a condition that says if you do need to dewater, you need to contact the Conservation Commission prior to doing that.
Okay.
Michael, one last question I had, and maybe Courtney would remember this too, is in the case of septic system like this, where it sounds like they'll have to bring in some fill to create separation to groundwater. Have we in the past, it seems like at various times in the past, we have specified clean fill. And I'm not sure, and maybe Joyce, you can advise whether that's necessary or whether that's, would work here. I have to say, I just had my septic system replaced and we found all sorts of crazy stuff in the fill. But we're not near wetlands.
So the material that they're gonna bring in for the under the system will be sand, and that's clean. And
Yep.
it sounds like they're gonna, for the side, they're gonna use the excavated material for the slope. So they shouldn't need, but perhaps a topping of loam, maybe.
Is there any fill? So in the end, Dan, are you planning to bring in?
Well, as Joyce pointed out, we're bringing in fill for the septic system. That's the clean sand, the Title V septic sand. The excavated material will be used to create the berms. And then we'll be importing topsoil to revegetate the lawn. And that's a screen topsoil. And as Carol points out, sometimes that's brought in from a farm. There can be, some debris in that topsoil, but they try to rake it out and clean up as best they can.
Don't
Carol,
we usually have a condition in there anyway about any materials being brought in? Like,
There is a condition, yep.
yeah.
We have a regulation, right? Yeah,
Right.
Brian, now that I can see you.
Just for Carol's edification, in Massachusetts, Carol, as a practicing, cleanup guy, I can tell you there's an anti-degradation policy. So if material is brought to a site, it is not supposed to be brought to a site where the quality of the soil is of better quality than that which you're bringing in. So if you really had a issue at your house where someone was bringing in stuff that you thought there was contamination in, you should certainly consider it. That there is a policy in Mass DEP about that.
Yeah.
As for this, I mean, it's pretty standard for people to move loam and sand around, and Dan McIntyre and all the general contractors who do septics are well versed in getting the correct type of Title V fill for this stuff. And we will be probably personally raking out all the loam to try to make sure that we get any plastics or garbage that seems to invariably come in those loads out before we seed it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I think we have, as part of the regulations, there is the fact which we're going to amend, actually, or hopefully amend, But we have regulations about fill, just meaning that it's clean of various materials. We could just make a reference to our regulations as to the clean. And I think there's a smaller quantity that we're not going to move towards. We could reference the regulation as well as not require testing of the soil. Because this is a relatively small quantity and it's only topsoil.
Yep.
Okay, any other condition issues that we want to talk about before closing the hearing? Hearing none, I move that we close the hearing for 49 Farm Street septic system replacement.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay,
Road, not a street.
what did I say? Oh, Farm Road. I take that friendly amendment.
Very
I guess otherwise we'd be in Dover, I guess, with Farm Street. We'll have to edit
No
the
other discussion.
Okay, Michael, I, Courtney,
Aye.
Kurt,
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Okay, hearing is closed. Now, normally we have findings and that we have prepared, but I guess given our new,
Prepared the findings, I
what's
apologize.
that? Yes,
I've not prepared the findings yet.
yes, as we're learning the new ropes in our transition, I'm gonna have to wing it here. You'll have to give me a second here.
Let me,
Because I'm gonna move to approve the project. And then, because we don't need any plan revisions. So we're fine with that, so we're not waiting on anything. Where is, okay, here we go. Let's see, oops. I thought I was gonna find something in the, I was gonna look for the order of conditions on one of the, okay. Let's see if this worked, okay. You'll have to bear with me. I propose that, I move that the findings are that the proposed project for replacement of a septic system, along with mitigation for the addition of a shed, as well as any related tree cutting, that can be, if installed according to this order of conditions, that the proposed work will not result in an adverse impact to the adjacent wetland resources. And the commission further finds that the applicant has presented sufficient evidence to demonstrate that proposed activity, including mitigation, will not alter the bordering vegetated wetland during or after construction of all of the conditions of the order are met. And in addition, in order to that there will be conditions for the mitigation and appropriate erosion control. To the extent that the following conditions modify or differ from the plans, that the conditions, let's see, specification, that the specifications of the, as submitted with the notice of intent, shall prevail. And this, the following interests of the Wetland Protection Act and the Sherborn Wetlands bylaw are being protected: quality and quantity of private and public water supplies, quality and quantity of groundwater supplies, flood control, storm damage, prevention of pollution, prevention of erosion, and wildlife habitat. Therefore, I propose that the project is approved subject to the findings and the conditions as discussed. All right, that's the end of my motion.
I would make a friendly, second.
Okay,
And then I would just make a friendly amendment to remove the words I propose at the end because you're just,
okay, right. The commission hereby
approves.
finds that the proposed project is approved. Yes, we could have things that it's, okay. Any other discussion? Okay, Michael, I, Carol, Kurt,
Aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
okay. We will get out an order of conditions soon. And then
Well,
you'll
thank
have
you very much.
the appeal period, which I assume both you, Dan, and you, Brian, are well familiar with the steps along the way there. And so you can go forth and improve the septic treatment in your area.
If you could copy Ellen on that too, so we can get started on the Board of Health process,
Sure,
that would be appreciated.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the sooner the better. Okay. Thank you, Brian, and bye, Brian and Dan. Okay, we'll work on these findings things. We have to come up with a,
No, I apologize. I would have had those, I ran out of time to prepare them. I will listen to the recording and modify the findings as you read them out.
well, we'll see. And I think that we could also, we generally have more findings than just that. That was just a subset that,
No, I have A through F are typically what you've been doing.
right, yes, I was sort of jumping through there because we have to figure out how much, I think we'd like to go over how much we have to read out loud versus make some reference to and how we do all the other conditioning.
All right. So we do need to put a signature page in the box out back for this. Assuming that you have voted to issue the order of condition.
Yes, that's what we just did.
Did we?
Okay. So
When we approve the project, that's,
Yep. Well, what I mean is, you need to let everybody know they need to go and sign this. A blank page.
it's gonna have to be, there's gonna be 4 things for us to sign. There's gonna be this order of the signature page for this order, the 2 certificates of compliance and the RDA.
Correct.
So you have to just send out an email when they're in the box, and then we will all come a running to sign. And we'll get to now, it has been an issue that I would like to propose. This project is fairly straightforward, that when there's a draft of the order of conditions, sometimes it's gone back and forth as to what extent we've ever really done it at a meeting. And historically, we've basically, the order of conditions have been prepared. A draft could be sent out to the commission and people could submit comments back within a certain time period so that we don't hold up the process. So when there's a draft sent out, look for that and decide whether you want to comment on any of the special conditions. And Joyce, you can put a deadline of some number of days so people just get back to us.
Do you want me to put it in the file folder and
Whatever we call this SharePoint thing. This brings up an issue that we will now talk about, Courtney. How we deal with this SharePoint, this file system, and what we can edit and not edit. I can't remember, do we have a way of selectively?
Yes.
Or do we have to be careful about everything?
Well, you can control access to a particular document. So right now, I made sure everything's turned off so nobody can accidentally like delete or change something. But if you go on an individual document and click on the little 3 dots, we can manage access. So like just for that.
When you say we, you mean you and I?
Yeah, well, anyone who's an owner. I think Joyce is an owner, so she can add, delete, change. Deborah has ownership privileges and Elizabeth.
Okay, so for the rest of you,
So what if people?
Carol
just-
and Kurt, you
Yeah.
can't, so we can send out, so we can create a folder for it and relax that constraint. So people like, and we'll do that for the minutes too. So that people can make edits to minutes and to the order of conditions. But to protect the integrity of the other documents, we're going to keep them restricted. What were you going to say, Joyce?
I was gonna say, even if you just have a comment that you want to email me, like condition number 5 should be revised to be such and such. That's fine too,
Right.
rather than emailing, revising the document. You can do it however, whatever's easiest for you.
Or yeah, or going online. I guess if you do make edits to an order of conditions, please email everybody to say that you've gone through it and made some comments so that people know to look for it. And we'll see how that works. Well, this will be a little trial and error with this process. Okay, so the question is, if you do put a document online, since we're having some issue where are things in the thing there? We have now, due to our demand by the majority, so now all of our meetings, including our current meeting, will be under the 2022 meetings folder and not in the root folder but above that, which we thought would be easier, but turns out not to be easier. So we're all we've learned. So that meeting stuff there. Question is, if you so that people are mainly focusing in the meetings thing. Question is whether if
Why don't I
in the-
do a folder right in the documents that says order of conditions,
for
49 Farm Road,
Okay, fine. Are you doing it under documents or not under the meetings, but under
under
doc?
documents.
Okay. So it's at the one level higher for everybody to notice. Okay,
So it's gonna be, yeah, it'll just be right in the document side.
right. Okay, everybody got that? And everybody hopefully is figuring out how to get access to this. We're gonna, well, so that, because it is a little tricky. I haven't even figured out how to, I mean, I'm sort of permanently in, but I haven't figured out if I was ever out, how to get back into documents, like the question you asked today, Kurt. Well, I was like, I have this link that I've saved, but I would think that there'd be a website. Like,
Yeah,
well,
I just hadn't saved the link and I couldn't find it. So
I know, but what I'm
I'll
amazed
save it.
by is that there should be a website that I could just
All
go
you
to.
need, if you Google Microsoft Office 365 login, it will take you to a login page. And once you type in your town credentials, it'll bring you to that account. If you've got problems like me, because you have so many different Microsoft 365 accounts, then you'll run into issues. But if this is the only one, if you just go to Microsoft 365 login.
no, I have multiple. I deal with the
Yeah,
same.
you got the same problem. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think as I was logged in, I couldn't test out that theory. Because I was afraid to log out just in case I got locked out on the day of a meeting. Okay, so we're still learning the ropes here, but it is nice having all the stuff here. And in the and also in that root directory documents, there is some other interesting stuff such as the MACC conference stuff and other things. But okay, so we now will set the restrictions appropriately so people can edit, especially the minutes. Okay, moving on. Let's see, we're gonna I'm gonna do one quick thing so that we get it done, so that it's formalized. For now, I move that Carol McGarry will be the Conservation Commission representative to the Land Acquisition Committee.
Second.
Okay, under discussion, I'll say that we want to do it formally, then we can announce it to the select board And I'll repeat again to Kurt, or anybody who becomes a member, that feel free to investigate that, whether you want to do that, since Carol has told me at least that she's more than happily to let another commissioner get involved in that there. And after Carol has a meeting or two, she might actually be able to explain what kind of stuff they talk about.
Top secret.
Yeah.
Might be.
I mean, it's an interesting group when things come up, this whole issue of, but a lot of, just make a comment that a lot of what happens when big properties come up in town and whether the town should get involved in trying to purchase it and move there, that is, it's a complicated issue. And I will say that a lot of this is also done by other people in town who informally know a lot of people. And so there seems to be a parallel process to land acquisition by other people who, that it's becomes a little, somehow that land acquisition or land sales tend to have a tricky sort of component to them in terms of certain privacy or concerns, so that sometimes there are other people in town who broker these kind of issues. Okay, that's the end of the discussion. I got to remember to vote. Michael, aye. Kurt?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Courtney?
Aye.
Okay, so Deborah, draft a letter to the select board, telling them that we're, and you can review it. Make a draft, send it to Courtney and me of a letter to the select board saying that this meeting we voted to appoint Carol as our representative to the Land Acquisition Committee. Okay, we've moved that there. We still have some minutes to do. Oh, I'm going to quickly do administrative approval, so I don't forget about it. We have
We have 2 administrative approvals, one for 52 Brush Hill Road, which was for soil testing. That will likely come back as a request for determination of applicability due to access for the septic system, but the soil testing is outside the jurisdiction. And then the second one for 0 Hunting Lane. This was a new house on a undeveloped lot, but the driveway, the retaining wall, and is within, and grading are within the buffer zone. So I denied that and sent them out a notice, and they're going to address that.
Okay, thank you. Then let's see, we have a few things we can get to. What is it, already 9:20 here? Before we go to the minutes, we have 2 more sets of minutes that we can get through. I'd like to see, let's talk about the new agent administrative hire. Do you want to handle that, Courtney, or should I, or take a stand, whatever?
Yeah, so as I'm sure you've noticed, we haven't had a ton of applicants come through. And we've also been working on a survey of other towns to see what the other salaries are on the market. Talk to some agents. We want to try to make this more of a competitive position. I think we really need somebody who has experience in this arena. Somebody who either has been an agent or has worked as a consultant might be good. Somebody who has wetlands specific experience. So Michael and I are in discussions about potentially changing the salary. We need to re-advertise anyway, because I think some of my ads are expiring. That's kind of where we're at. Michael, did you want to add anything? What am I forgetting?
Yeah, I guess we're going to go, besides the traditional places that are there, we're going to explore using regular job boards such as Indeed or maybe ZipRecruiter or something like that. We're trying to get, we've had some discussion where we were going to increase the upper end of the salary range So we're just waiting for, we've already got enough enough documentation to support that. We just want to get a quick little okay from the interim town manager. So that will advertise the job. Would probably other towns, we're trying to push the salary to about $40 an hour, which would lead to sort of, I think at the 35 hours, gets the salary into the 70,000 area. For some reason, I'm not seeing the number here. And that's more competitive with other towns nearby that have with their hourly rate. I would argue at some point, if we get somebody good, that it would be worth it for the town to even consider a higher range. But that's a topic that I'll bring up with the town administrator. I've left her a couple of messages about that. So hopefully with the revised ad, a higher ceiling for now, and and starting to move into other platforms, we can generate some interest. Carol.
Well, I promised to do a little bit of research about Indeed and how that could be helpful. And I talked to an HR consultant who works with our company. And I had also researched it myself and saw that you can actually add screening questions to Indeed. I don't know if Courtney and Michael, you've ever done that. But by doing that, you can actually get people to answer those questions and eliminate them. You know, in other words, if one of the questions were, do you have a degree in environmental science? And another was, do you have experience with wetland delineation? And they said no. And we decided that those were critical factors. They would not even show up for us. They would be eliminated. And so that would reduce the amount of time we'd spend screening some of these candidates. So, so that's one thing. And the second piece of advice I got from this recruiter was possibly using LinkedIn and basically advertising in groups that are very much oriented toward environmental science, or, you know, look at the different interest groups and see if there's some that are related to this.
Yeah, I forgot about LinkedIn, that we should do that. But right, I think we should, even if we have to, there's some expense to these, we should, that I think those ones that we can handle. Yeah, I think, well, it's a matter of coming up with the questions, whether you and Courtney, if you want to, somebody could just draft a few questions to see. It is tricky to decide which are the ones that are absolute minimums, whether a degree in it, whether basically, I guess we could say a degree in some sort of environmental or related area. The question is right, do you accept a degree in biology, obviously, or chemistry? It's tricky to figure out, to word the question appropriately so that it could become an absolute screening tool. That's where, yeah, I don't know, but that's probably the only way to deal with this, is that, and even with wetlands, I would probably say that, right, I guess we want somebody who's had some experience with wetlands. And I'd leave it fairly broad, just to see, and to see whether we could play around with more general questions that are absolutes, and see who gets through the screening, whether it still becomes too many people that are not coming forth or not. So I'd just rather get anything in place, sooner the better, and then we could start adjusting the questions depending on what it takes to get a meaningful set of respondents. But I don't know if you, Carol, or you, Courtney, or whatever, draft some questions and feel free to send it out to people, or get anything in place. I would say at this point that I would give permission to Courtney and you to agree on something and just get it in place, and just let us know what it is you're putting in there, and people can comment after the fact even. But just to have it in place in the meanwhile is the most critical.
Courtney, why don't we just try to find an hour on our calendars when we can talk about it? I bet we could just hammer that out really quick.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to pick that hour right now? I'd even
No.
let you do it now.
No,
Okay,
9:27.
okay, fine.
We can check
Um,
Each other or something.
okay, that's it now. I will continue to go deal with the salary issue. Okay, moving on. Let's go to another set of minutes. Although while I'm getting that up, Joyce, do you have any? Oh yeah, we still have that site issue thing.
So,
Let's deal with that.
first of all, we have two NOIs to set up site visits for. We have 116 Farm Road, that's the written notice of intent in response to an enforcement order. So
Okay,
that's a site walk for a notice of intent, and then we have a request for soil testing under a notice of intent at 26 Western Ave. And we typically set up site visits for notice of intent.
okay. Let's see, since I have some more flexibility and I guess it'd be interesting to see while I'm pulling up minutes, whether the three of you can give some feedback as to what times even work, since you, Kurt, are a new player to this, whether there are times that work for you to go to site visits.
I typically go into Boston for work Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So not always all three of those days, but those are the days that I, could be going in. So Mondays or Fridays would be better.
Okay, and during those days, are you flexible during the day?
Yeah, I have flexibility during those days.
Carol?
Sorry,
What's-
what was the
what would
question?
you prefer? We're trying to actually schedule some site visits now, even though Matt's not here. But he's not coming back until, who knows, sometime next week.
How about August 15th, which is a Monday? Is anybody available?
Well, what time of day?
Yeah, I'm leaving that open at the moment.
What works for you, Carol?
Yeah, probably in the afternoon is better for me than in the morning.
Say
on a
4
Monday.
o'clock?
Yeah, that would probably work. Yeah.
Courtney?
What did you say? 4 o'clock?
Yeah,
We can shift it.
I mean,
Yeah.
No,
5 o'clock would be
it's-
even better for me, but I don't know if that's better for other people.
On a Monday, I can do 4 o'clock.
okay, Michael?
Okay, it's a deal. 4 o'clock, and let's
So let's start at 116 Farm.
okay, so people have the hour or so, or take an hour or so more, because we'll have to drive across town to Western Ave. Is that okay for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll hope for the best for Matt.
Put it up for 4 PM, because I'm gonna call the people and let them know, or email these people and let them know. So I'm gonna say 4 PM for, 4 PM. We walk down to,
Oh, yeah, we got a nice hike of 116.
well, actually, I think we can walk through the breezeway and just look through the backyard. We don't have to walk all the way down to the water. This is
Oh,
right.
because it's that work in the backyard, right?
So I'm gonna say 4 PM there, and then I'm gonna say 4:40. Or should I say 4:45 we just can't talk a lot.
Yeah. Right, no, that's what I'm wondering, whether
Fine.
it goes
What's
440
the
or
address?
something.
What's the address for Western Avenue?
26 Western Ave.
Let me ask a question to the three other members here, and you, Joyce. Well, if you want to take, would you all be amenable to shifting it to 4:30 if that's something that worked for Matt?
I would.
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
did I say 5 o'clock if that worked for him?
That would work for me. But I think, Courtney, does that work for you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, fine. Let's Joyce, do you mind emailing him or?
So I'm gonna email him and say, ask him what time works for him.
Yeah, say that the rest of us can make it on Monday, the 15th. At 4 o'clock or 4:30 or 5,
Okay,
preferably earlier. The earlier the better, I assume is best for the rest of us. I could go either way and see if by some chance he can make that.
Okay.
Okay, then. Okay, I guess I'm gonna go on to this. I'm gonna talk about, before we get to the minutes. I'm gonna, as a site issue, the 26 Western Ave. I'll start this issue of the, for large pieces of property with, often with very extensive wetlands. That it has been a pattern to get an NOI filing that includes only some outer buffer zone work for soil testing, as well as a request to delineate the wetlands. Which sometimes have some issues around the idea of we don't even know what the project is. I'm not sure that that should make a difference for the wetland delineation. I'm struggling myself with the concept that we have gotten advice from the DEP circuit rider, who's a fount of knowledge, to say that when you're getting buffer zone only projects like that, that we have the discretion to just, if that knowing the exact wetland lines is not going to affect the conditioning of the project, that we can say that we can entertain the project without, because it's purely an outer buffer zone project, that we don't have to go through approving the wetland line. That's one aspect of going that route. And another aspect is that it's also been advised that if you do what's called a permit, an ANRAD, an abbreviated notice for the, oh God, I forgot what it even stands for.
Abbreviated notice of resource area delineation.
Thank you. That is a much more formal mechanism where that applicants go through and get a delineation of each type of wetland resource that exists on the site, and the line gets reviewed carefully, and that sets the line for the 3-year period. And that's another more formal way of just getting a wetland delineation approved by the commission. Well, in the past, we've been combining the two under the NOI, which we could still pursue. One of the issues when we have a large site, we've generally decided that we're moving towards the idea that it's a lot of work to approve a long delineation line. And in terms of our agents' limited resources, that we then could require a consultant to be hired who would do the approval. We would get some 2 or 3 sort of quick quotes, and from 3 good firms that we know of, and that's accepted business practice. And we could then require the applicant to pay for that consultant. The same thing would happen under an ANRAD, that we would have a consultant hired to review the work. This is a new, the idea of saying for a buffer zone project that we would want them to get the delineation done under ANRAD, and we would entertain the NOI for the buffer zone project without approving the wetland line, is something new for us. We tried that. We've given that apply to the person who owns 27 Western Ave based on the information from the circuit rider that we just had in the last month about this whole other approach. I actually would like to consult the circuit rider again, to just check on doing it this way, how to give this as an example for 26 Western Ave. And because I think the applicant would like to be one question that, I guess, going to a financial issue, is that we hardly ever get ANRADs because we generally do it under an NOI, these delineations. But and therefore, it's an issue that's come up before, is that our fee structure for ANRADs is quite costly. And it's always been an issue. And would be in our, when we open up the regulations for review at some point this year, it's always been an issue to review that fee because it's quite significant. It's higher than most neighboring towns. And we haven't been confronting that issue because it's been rarely applied for. Now, if we take this new tack of requesting an ANRAD, we're going to need to come up with a more reasonable fee that is more in line with what our neighboring towns use. So if, based on talking, I'd like to still talk to our circuit rider about this route that we've approached now, where we're saying that we want them to do an ANRAD. Essentially what I'd like to propose as a one-off issue, as a one case issue, is that we have, I guess it's in the, I'll show people what the, whoops. It's
So-
in the, where did you put the page? I saw somebody uploaded the,
I put them under bylaw fees. So the issue isn't so much, the issue is that people are coming in with 15, 20 acre parcels of land and using a notice of intent as if it were a single family lot to review very large wetland lines. And before you start a project, no matter what your project is, you want to be sure that your wetland line is agreeable to the commission. And so you want to fix that wetland line before you propose your project. And the problem that you've been having, because your fee structure is so open-ended, unlike most towns, is that there's no cap. So you could be paying tens of thousands of dollars for a wetland delineation. It's not, well, I just calculated the one that came in and it would be over $7,000.
right, so it's about 2,500, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's cost prohibitive to do an ANRAD. You wouldn't go that route. You would try any other mechanism you can. So they find something in the buffer zone to do and then tack on the wetland line. When really, as you described to me, the circuit rider was suggesting that you can request them to do an ANRAD, but you just need to make it more palatable.
Yes. I'm showing here from our regulations, the fee structure for an ANRAD. It gets a little complicated when they're doing soil testing. Here, this category 6
So-
is,
If you're doing soil testing for a single family dwelling, you're testing one site. They have on this next proposal for 26 Western Ave, 8 or 10 sites that they're testing along, they're calling it testing for soil testing, for septic systems, and for stormwater. So you wouldn't do that for a single family dwelling.
right,
And so that when they went under a category 6, which is an ANRAD, they do it based on the lineal feet of wetlands that you have. And you can see that it's $3 per lineal foot, 3 times, let's say you have 2,000 feet of wetland line. That's $6,000. I'm doing this math at quarter attempt. And that's, but under the Wetlands Protection Act, it's capped at, it's $2 per lineal foot under the Wetlands Protection Act. 2 times 2,000 is $4,000, and it's capped at $2,000. So even though it comes out to be $4,000, the maximum fee would be $2,000. Under
And the
your
bu-
bylaw, the minimum fee is $2,000, and it's 3 times the lineal foot. So that would be $6,000. And you just have to, the goal would be, I think, to make the fees more reasonable so that people would use this tool to fix their wetland lines for extremely large parcels. Now, Michael, take over now.
Yeah, I've looked at other towns and so essentially, just to be clear for Kurt, in case it's not, that when people are paying, there's a state level fee and then there's a local bylaw fee. And so almost every town has its own local bylaw with a fee structure, which we're looking at here. We can pull up the state one, but essentially it has a $2,000 max for an activity like this that we're looking at today for 26 Western Ave. Now, what other towns have is for their bylaws, they also have Dover, for example, also has a 2,000 max, and it has $2 a linear foot for each resource area, with then a max of 2,000 for that. And places like Lincoln, interestingly, don't have a max, but they only have $1 a linear foot. So that could both get higher and lower. Medway has $1.50 a foot with a 2,000 max. There are towns that have a 15,000 max. Carlisle has a higher rate than many at $2.50 a linear foot, but only a $1,500 maximum. And so I would like to propose here that if we, to help give this applicant some clearer signal as to what it is, since we're going to revisit this when we get around to redoing our regulations, this is one of the things that would get re-examined. But I wanted to do something before that so that we can give some clarity to the applicant, that I would like to suggest that we on this one, on 4 projects going forward until we revise our regulations more formally. I can't tell what to do on a case by case. I didn't go to town council, but that we adopt a similar thing to other towns where we do a $2,000 maximum, that we could have let's see, when I look at things, we could have a $2, or we could match Dover's, for example, $2 a linear foot for each resource area, plus a state max with a local max of $2,000. We could revisit this when we get to the regulations, and then we could, but I'd like to give them some clarity in this case. If we pursue this, we still might go back and go pursue this. I guess I'll open up to comments from the commission, and then I'll let Jacob ask a question. Does anybody have any questions right now before I let Jacob?
So just to clarify that again, the state fee is $2,000. We get a portion of that state fee. So let's say the max, we reach the max at $2,000. The town receives $1,012.50 of that $2,000 plus the bylaw fee, if it were a max of $2,000.
Well, so whatever we do, I just want to make sure because part of the reason for this is also to make sure, this adequately reflects the work involved.
So
go ahead.
I agree. The
Oh,
problem is
actually, I forgot to. Yeah.
if you don't reflect, if you don't make these reasonable,
Yeah,
people are finding a way around it.
sure. Yeah.
Although we have before I go to other comments, we were told by, I'll confirm it, but by the circuit rider that we have the discretion to
Okay.
require that, ANRAD. I just wanted to make, actually, what other towns still do is, what I forgot to bring up the whole issue, is that you still need to get the wetland lined reviewed. And other towns still, in addition to this fee, they still require that a consultant would be hired. I don't think the cost of that, I would estimate, is somewhere of, who knows, maybe $1 $1,000 to $2,000. We're going to try to get some quotes to see what that's like, to have an outside consultant also do the wetland review. So the other towns still have that in addition. And so that we would actually, I would say that it would still be with the expectation that we would that we require them to have a consultant do the review. And I think we would go out to a couple of firms to ask them for examples, just to learn. We might use this NOI as an example to get an example of a cost estimate from a couple of firms that we think are reputable for doing this kind of work. Okay, Jacob?
I just had a question about in the example, in what's shown up on the page here, it says this only applies if it's a single family house project. Is what's supposed to happen today if it's not, or if it's for a different kind of project, or if it's unclear what kind of project it's for?
Oh, it's the, actually, I'm gonna try to,
So this is written, this particular one, this is the bylaw. It's written differently than the state is. So under the state, a single family dwelling, which would be like a house in a subdivision, they have a max of $200. So the bylaw, I feel like there was maybe a miscommunication when they wrote it up. But so it's $2 per linear foot for a maximum of $200 for a single family house, and a max for $2,000 for all other activities.
Okay, so that's different from what's.
So that is different, but you're allowed, your bylaw is allowed to be different. This is just like there was it seemed like it went backwards.
well, I guess, I'm not sure I'd read it the way you did, but whatever it is.
So what do you think Michael, tell me how you.
I mean, it's basically, right, it's not well articulated. I assumed it was $3 a linear foot. It's basically quite large. $3, whatever the interpretation is here, I'm not concerned about interpreting the bylaw wording, because what I'm trying to get to is something that we would agree on as an interim fee structure. That I think we're going to end up doing project by project, since I think we can't necessarily do it as a global change, because it's in our regulations. That I think we can make project by project fee adjustments, and so obviously it would set a precedent until we revise them.
How do you get the word out to people
I guess I don't want to, we will deal with that later. Actually, I just want to get to something tonight on that.
Okay.
And we can figure that out separately. It's a valid issue, but I think that takes away from, I think in the share screen, you could see the state and and our bylaw here. And so what I would, so that essentially what is 2 linear foot?
The state one looks clear to me. The town one looks like if you have some other kind of project.
All right, again, I don't want to deal with our bylaw one, because the issue is I'm trying to come up with something that we would do now, that I would say that I would parallel the state one, except for the fact that whether other towns have, I'm trying to think, the other towns have a higher max for the single family homes than the 200. Other towns like Carlisle has a $750 max. But I would see having something that parallels the state one, with a maybe a max for now of, let's say, $500. It's somewhat in between what the state has and what other towns have. So I would suggest that we do that. And plus, I would still suggest we have the language that we would consider having that, we might also require the applicant to pay for a consultant to review the wetland line. And we could think about that on a case-by-case basis, which we always do, when we have a consultant. But, so that's my informal proposal, is something paralleling the state with a $500 for a single family to match what other towns do. And noting that we might also have a consultant be hired to review the wetland line. But that doesn't have to be part of this. That would be somewhat separate issue. What do people think of that proposal as so let's say this particular project, and then going forward until we revise the regs?
Joyce, you look like you were gonna say something.
So I was just, so Michael, do you mean you'd say something to the effect of $2 per lineal foot for each resource area? For each resource area delineation, would you do the fee not to 2,000, or would you, because you don't specify single family homes or otherwise, would you just say, would you just put
Again,
it?
we tried to make a distinction there, but again, I don't want to look at the bylaw, I guess.
I'm not asking you to, but are you saying you want to mimic what the?
Actually, now that I read it, I'm not sure I want to mimic. I guess I'm not sure, because now I'm looking at it and I'm trying to, because I'm not sure every town has this. It's for each resource area delineation.
Yeah, but
Fee
is it-
shall not exceed, so that if you have more than one resource area, then you can get into multiples. I don't like that. I would actually say for each for the I would not sure the actual wording, but I would actually just have it for the whether the $2,000 maximum. I guess I don't know. What do you think? I mean, here, do you read it? I read it as that if you had land subject to flooding.
No, you're not gonna get a delineation for that though, so.
What's that?
You're not gonna you're not gonna walk a wetland, you're not gonna walk a line for a land subject to flooding. But the things that you would get typically would be a wetland delineation and maybe bank of the river. You know,
When you say-
those two, and
You're talking about bordering water, BDW.
bordering vegetated wetland or isolated wetland or whatever, and you would have that wetland line, you'd add up the total lineal feet. You might also have, they might also flag the bank of the river, which is separate from those.
Right.
And the, you know, and then total that all up. I think that if you, on your typical delineation, if you do a $2,000 max, I still think if you were looking to cover, I mean, this is something you talked about, I don't know what direction you're headed in, but if you were looking to cover the costs to review those, I think that covers it, if including whatever you might get from the Mass DEP fee.
Okay, but we want it, so we don't want this, we don't actually want the state wording. Because it says for each resource delineation. Or I almost read it as,
How about for the resource area delineation?
right, exactly, that's okay, as long as we're in agreement that I don't want it to be for each. I want the $2,000 max to apply to everything altogether. And as a max, and I would and so, and I would just change the household one as to have a max of 500, depending on what might show up there. Even though I guess it's unlikely that you'd have a very long delineation for just a single
So I
family.
just did a quick calculation, like say you had 120 feet of lineal feet of wetland line for a single family dwelling. You know, you're looking at $240. So, you know, it's not as, I was gonna say, it's not as likely someone come in with an ANRAD, they would probably file their whole project and come in. But
Right, I mean, that for that kind of stuff, for smaller single family, we probably wouldn't want this. This is mainly, we'd have to come up with a policy of that we would argue for the ANRAD for properties that are possibly greater than
3 acres.
3 acres, which is our general, for, let's say 3 acres and maybe some other conditions.
Yeah, because that was my next question, is because, like, I mean, everybody likes to check off single family house, and you know, we even if it's a huge property, I mean, how do we make that call? You know, like I mean, just look at the application we just got. Check off single family home, but there's a lot more
So we
testing.
can change the wording for our temporary policy to a maximum of $500 for properties that are 3 acres or less. And it's unlikely that they'll even get to the $500. So I would drop the single family home and just do it by acreage for the short run. And we're going to revisit all of this. We're going to have to refine this all when we do. I'm trying to come up with a temporary fix for this, so that maybe we do have it for the complete resource delineation. I mean, that's why I think we had the $3 thing, because if it's, you know, at one point for just smaller projects, but I think in the end that I'm happy to live with the, for now in the short run, the $2 per linear foot for each resource area, and then have a total max of 500 for a property less than 3 acres, and a max of $2,000 for all other properties. And we can resolve the issue of whether we want them to hire a consultant or not, based on each project.
because you already have that provision.
Yeah.
How do people feel about that? Okay, people have to talk out, because I have, since I'm sharing my screen, people are little things. I need verbal.
Sounds
I mean,
reasonable to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it sounds reasonable. Joyce, do you see any issue with the, like, up to 3 acre?
I don't think so, because I don't think so. With 3 acres, I think you should be all right.
I mean, right, you could have a 3 acre lot in town with 1 acre zoning and somebody's doing 3 houses.
Right, but I'm
But
just
in which
thinking,
case,
like,
there's still not a lot of wetlands, I'm assuming, and therefore it would be handled by this.
yeah, like just a rough cutoff place.
And we
But-
can
but
always
if they're
adjust it
doing-
later.
But if they're doing testing for 3 different sites on it, you've got to assume it's potentially 3 separate lots. So the fee would be times 3.
Okay.
One observation I'd have here is that anybody who's in the, what is it, RC district, their lots are going to be 3.0 something acres.
Right, exactly. It's the
They'd
same.
be over that.
Right, so maybe it makes more sense to think about what Joyce is saying about the number of testing sites. I don't know.
No, that gets to, well,
Well, I mean, that would be on a case.
we don't
by
want to
case-
tie it to testing sites, I think.
Yeah.
This is an ANRAD.
That would be on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
I think we can, I mean, if it's more than 500, if it happens to be a little bit over 3 acres, it depends. It's unlikely they're gonna have that money at $2 a foot. That's a lot of wetland line. To exceed so I think the $500 is reasonable for that kind of thing there, because this is also, I mean, normally, even if you're doing a single family home, you have to do $700. But they would have to do that in addition. Okay, so I would, so I move that as a temporary policy. Are we ready for a motion on this, or do we want to bat it around a little bit more? I need verbal
All right, I say go ahead with the motion.
Okay. I move that as a temporary policy. Actually, the question is, are we making this project to this I guess we did it as a temporary policy. That we are changing the category 6 fee for an ANRAD to a fee, the local bylaw fee is $2 per linear foot for each resource area, subject to a maximum of $500 for a property of 3 acres or less, or a maximum of $2,000 for larger properties.
A maximum how much?
2,000.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Michael, I. Courtney,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Okay, the issue of whether we ask for a consultant fee is a case-by-case basis to do the review. And that's somewhat subject to our availability of time. Now, for Western Ave, which has a lot of wetlands and over what, 2,500 feet, I think. Is that the number you actually came up with?
I came up with 2,500 linear feet.
That's exactly what I guessed.
You're
In
very
my-
good.
That was my 5-second assessment, or whatever, 15-second maybe when we were talking the other day. Okay, wow, it's really gonna make my day. Let's see. So I think you can let them know this fee. The question is this a case where whether we just put it there that we may also, I guess, do we have a sense of what it would cost to get an outsider to do a wetland? Or we have to go, or
I-
whether you
I
could
think
call
you're
up
right.
Ecotech.
I think your range was reasonable, but we probably should review that at the next meeting.
Well, I was gonna say, but well, the question is what to tell them. So that they might decide what they're gonna do, whether they would change they filed the NOI.
Yep.
But they,
They want to do soil testing, so definitely they're gonna go forward with that. They have already sent emails questioning, because have you seen the emails that have come back?
right, the question is whether they still would like to get the wetland line delineated underneath that. And we're basically saying, and that they're questioning whether we would change our mind about the wetland delineation.
Right,
Okay. And this would be one that would be clearly reach the maximum of the 2,000 fee. I guess, do you know people at Ecotech easily?
I do, and I mean, I
Would it
think
be
you're
awkward to ask them or not, or I should? Is
I
it a-
think it needs to be a formal request, but I think you're looking at about, probably from someone on the outside, you're probably looking at about probably $1,500.
Okay,
And then you suggested that you would have a discussion with the circuit rider. I think you should do that.
yeah. Okay, so you can tell them the fee there and say that there might have to be an additional fee for a consultant to review it. Okay, so it's clear what you can give back to them.
Michael, I did pull out my environmental handbook for Massachusetts Conservation Commissions from MACC. We've had a long discussion here. I thought it might be helpful to read out what they say. It's not very long because it does provide a little bit of additional guidance. This is section 12.9.4, and it said in 1997, a new process was created to address the problem facing conservation commissioners when a landowner seeks a boundary delineation through an RFD. Commissioners receive no filing fees through RFDs. Yet reviewing boundaries can be time consuming and costly, especially on larger complex projects. So, okay, so that's why they developed the ANRAD. and MACC had long urged DEP to make this change. It does recount that it requires a filing fee of $1 per linear foot of delineated VBW with a maximum of 100 for a single family house and maximum of 1,000 for other activities. This is covered in a new category 6. There is no additional fee for other resource areas. So I think that's just something for us to be aware of.
That's old, those are old fees, Carol.
Okay, okay. The commission may require that the plans be prepared by a professional rather than accepting the informal plans. This is the part that I hadn't heard before, and Joyce, maybe you can comment on this. Applicants must indicate the length of the wetland and which methods of determination they use. They're encouraged to use DEP's manual delineating bordering vegetated wetlands under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and to submit a field data form. Does that sound familiar to you?
We normally get that. We always get that.
You already get that, yeah.
We always get that for any NOI.
And then all procedures, advertised public hearing and time periods are the same as for an NOI. Okay, maybe that was just repetitious, but hopefully
Okay.
that is a somewhat helpful overview.
Good to know. Okay. Okay, so I'll try to do the circuit rider and okay, but I think we're on our way here. Okay, any other issue on this thing before I move on to, let's finish up the 2 sets of minutes for tonight. And let's see here. Oops. I guess I'll reshare the screen here. I'm doing the July. I guess. Do people see the 13th July minutes?
Oh,
Is that a yes?
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to close the fees though, so it's bigger, whatever.
I can make it, well, I can make it bigger no matter what.
Oh, whatever you do.
I could always make it bigger. I can just trying to not go.
I have a few changes, Michael. Should I just tell you about them?
Okay, let's go. Sally forth.
Good. Okay, so in the paragraph, discussion of comments on farm roads. It says in the second, see that paragraph under the subhead there? It starts with the ML presented. In the last sentence, it says, in consideration of density / design, the commission opined if, I think that should be questioned if proposed septic systems could be relocated at the site in order to have less impact on the wetlands. And then 3 relevant project concerns were reviewed. I just think you should, that shouldn't be italics. It should just be normal and spacing closed up, because otherwise it makes it look like, I don't know, it makes it look too much emphasis really. And then in the comment that starts with Kiosk commented, it said it could be vastly eliminated. I think that must have meant to be vastly reduced.
I'm gonna change, I'm back on the first thing here. I would say we didn't question it, since I think I noted.
Did you suggest
I
maybe?
noted that. I was gonna say could. No, that could possibly. I guess it's not, could be. Okay, maybe that's not good. That noted that if the septic system was relocated. Okay, God, sorry to do this wordsmithing right here. Noted that if.
You could just say that relocating the proposed septic systems
Could have less, noted
reduce
that,
impact on the wetlands.
okay. Noted that, okay, I like that wording, whatever you just came up with, I can
I said
remember.
noted that, let's see, that
That relocating,
locating proposed septic systems could reduce the impact on wetlands.
I think I'd go as far as to say at the time that I would Uh, Okay, okay, this is a formatting thing here,
Oh,
whatever,
yeah, it just makes it look like there's section headings or something, and they're not, they were just,
whatever. Okay, we'll get rid of the spacing there. Go on.
and then Chaos commented, and then at the end it says could be vastly eliminated, so it must have been, could be, I don't even think vastly, but could be reduced.
I don't know, Kurt, is that what you really said?
I have no idea if Kurt said that.
That seemed a little extreme.
Why don't you just change vastly eliminated to reduce?
Could be lessened or reduced. What do you think, Kurt?
Yeah, lessened or reduced either way.
Okay, next.
In the paragraph that starts with Chaos commented, in the second sentence, it's just, it's kind of a tortured word choice. So it should say, he stated that mass housing was unlikely to assume an advocacy role, and role is misspelled. I don't have any further edits, just because I didn't really get a chance to look through the rest. I apologize for that.
Okay, anybody else want to make any comments on this? Since in the end, the letter speaks for itself.
Yeah, I don't
So
think there was
therefore, it's
anything substantive.
Yeah,
that-
some things are less critical to capture
Right.
everything when we have a finalized letter. Okay, does anybody else want to make any more comments on this? Okay, I move that we accept the July 13th minutes as edited.
Second,
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Michael, I, Kurt,
Aye.
Courtney,
I,
Carol.
Aye.
Okay, we've got this one done. I guess I'm going to. Let's see, I'll get that one we already did. I'm gonna pull up the other one here. Okay. Whoops. Okay, any comments here? I will, actually, I need 20 seconds to go drink something.
Did anybody else get a chance to look at this in advance?
I did. I wasn't at this meeting. That's my first comment because I'm listed as present. So other than that, I'm not going to comment or vote on these minutes.
you were actually listed as present and absent, so it was very, meta, I don't even know what.
Wow,
I assure you I was absent.
that's pretty good. I'm impressed at your locational abilities.
Right now, I'm present and absent at the same time.
Okay, let me, Deborah, make sure you put that in the minutes. Okay, so probably you, Kurt, will abstain since there's no way to comment.
Yep.
And we don't need you to vote. Courtney, you probably, have you read this?
Yeah, I'm not gonna quibble over commas and stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have to.
It doesn't bother me as much,
No, I feel a little bit, I mean, I try to read it since it's a lot to digest for me. I try it beforehand. I just try to do quick things that are more substantive, but I do miss things like missing ROLL versus roll.
Right.
But sort of
But
bothers me.
I'm also like, oh, Carol will get that.
All right, so Carol, did you get a chance to read these?
I mean, I hate to say it, I'm seeing a comma that's misplaced, but whatever.
Fine, you could, I'll even do that, but have you read it otherwise?
No, I'm just looking at it right now.
Okay. I guess it might be,
I'll just scan for anything it seems particular, like
okay,
that would
where
make it
is,
hard to understand.
where is that errant comma? Oh, my God.
Oh, I've gone past it. Yeah, you try to find it.
Actually, it's interesting how the word online that has a different kind of editor, doesn't have that kind of standard. Like it has no spelling,
Okay, I'll tell you where it is because I just found it and I don't want
no
to.
acronyms, conciseness. It doesn't find any spelling errors. Actually, no, I did spell check it in regular Word. Yes,
So in under continuation of land management where it says KM commented that similar plans in Essex and Weston reflected a more generic NOI, you need to take out that comma because otherwise you're splitting
hold on, I don't know where you
subject
are.
and the
Okay,
verb.
you don't have to, I don't
Right.
need, you don't need explanations.
Well, little grammar lesson.
All right. We don't need this comma here.
I'm actually looking at my own version of this because it's so.
I certainly agree with that. Yes, I actually am into a lot of grammatical stuff. I just do not apply that when I'm reading these minutes because it just gets to be too much. So I do spend a bit of time in my own work editing. Okay. Yeah, this is a lot of pages, 1 to 4 pages. I mean, we could put it off to the next meeting if you want to have time to read it, Carol, since I do appreciate you catching some of the really goofy stuff that you have.
Do you know what, I'd be happy to, proof it, especially if we can get it into the shared drive in such a manner that I can just.
Okay, fine, we'll do that and we'll work on that. This will be a good exercise to work on that. Okay, we're not going to approve this today. We will sort it out the next meeting since there's 4 pages of stuff here and it would be nice.
If anybody is wondering why I'm so on this, my very first job was as a copy editor and I did that work for several years. And once a copy editor, I guess always a copy editor.
We're going to put that on your tombstone.
Yeah.
So, or your urn, whatever you prefer. Okay. Going back to our agenda here. I'm sure we're ready to, let's see, I think we've got everything here and we're now ready to tackle the tree removal policy.
You're so funny.
Okay, sarcasm appropriately noted.
My power is back on, so I'm ready to go home to my air conditioning.
Oh, really? So I could stop stomping on the floor here on top of your head? Okay, so people, has anybody actually started reading the tree remove, started from Lincoln and then look at the others in our own draft to see? It's a task for people to think about, is to sort of look at the issues. And I think there's an issues, let's see, we go to, I will drag you into, let's see. I'm going to drag you into the, because I'm still sharing. Policy. I'm going to still point out that people could look at this. I'd like people to look at this tree removal issues, just to see some of the issues that we identified and to what extent they're covered in the Lincoln work and what we'd want to do. And you could also look at the draft of our old policy to see if there's anything there, because I think we have different levels of mitigation there. So it's important to look at these 2 things here and then see what we think, because I think it's the policy itself is what we're going to try to edit and adapt. So based on what, and this, you can go back to earlier, you can go back to an earlier meeting where they had other examples. Courtney did not let me put him in here, even though I was tempted to put a subdirectory folder.
But
here.
you can put them in there. I just,
I was gonna put a subdirectory with the Boxborough and the other, but I'm not.
yeah. it's-
But you could all go back to a July meeting and see where we had examples from a number of other towns. Okay, on that note, Joyce, did you have any other site stuff?
I did not.
Okay. Anybody else have any announcements or any other pearls of wisdom to share with us? Um,
Not
Okay.
at 10:22 at night, no.
okay,
Good call, Carol. Good call.
okay. I move to adjourn at 10:22.
Second,
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Michael, I, Courtney,
I.
Carol,
I.
Kurt,
Aye.
okay. We're done. Thanks, everybody.